Good morning, students. So, in the last lecture, we see the what is the meaning of industrial building, what are the factors considered while selecting site for an industrial building, what are the major components of industrial building like purlins, right? Spacing, reach point, principal rafter, right? The points while considering using planning and designing of industrial building, what are the materials, roofing materials, which is galvanized iron or asbestos cement sheets, which is known as GI sheets or EC sheets, right? And in the selection of wall system, the designer should be considered the following areas, right? Which is cost, interior space requirement, aesthetic appearance, etc., etc. The second one is a selection of bay width. So what is the meaning of bay, and what are its uses, and what type of bay width is select while design the industrial building, right? So now we can third moving to the this third point, which is selection of a structural framing system, right? So for the purpose of a structural analysis and design, the industrial buildings are classified as uh, two types, which is first one is a braced frames and the second one is a unbraced frames. So, first in a brace frames, in this type of building, in these braced buildings, the trusses rest on columns with a hinge type of connections, and the stability is provided by the bracings in three mutually perpendicular planes. Right. So these brace frames are efficient in resisting the loads and do not sway, right? While the unbraced frames, they are in the form of portal frames and are used mostly distinguished by its simplicity, cleanliness and economy. So the frames can provide large column free areas, offering maximum adaptability of the space inside the building. Such large span buildings require less foundation and eliminate the internal columns and drainage. So they are advantageous for more effective use of steel than in simple beams. So easy extension at any time and ability to support heavy concentrated point loads. So the disadvantage include really high material unit cost and susceptibility to differential and temperature stresses. In addition, this frames produces horizontal reactions on the foundation, which may be resisted by providing long tie beams or by designing the foundation for the horizontal reactions. Right. So it has both advantage and disadvantage here for unbraced frames. The next fourth point is roof trusses. So most common type of roof trusses are pitch roof trusses, wherein in a top crowd is provided with a slope in order to facilitate natural drainage of rainwater and the clearance of dust and snow accumulation. Right. So these trusses have a greater depth at the mid span. Due to this, even though the overall bending effect is large at the mid span. So, chore members and web members stresses are smaller closer to the midpoint and the larger closer to the support. So these are the different types of trusses. First one is a pitch pret trusses. Second one is a pitch hot trusses, fan trusses, fin truss, right? Parallel crowd pret trusses, parallel crowd hot trusses, and the next two is a parallel crowd warren trusses, right? So different type of trusses are here: warren truss, right? Fan truss, fin truss. So depends on the type of trusses. There are different span used, right? Although we also say that at a very specific spans, there are different types of trusses are used. First one is for a fin truss up to 9 meters span. Fin trusses are used. 6 to 50 meter pred trusses are used. Uh, Longer span up to 28 meter fin truss, compound fin truss are used. Span of a 12 meter, then simple fan trusses are used, and up to 24 meter compound fan trusses are used. Right. So next point is a purlin, girts and sag rod. So purlin support roof sheetings, and load from the sheets are transferred to the purlins. So the loads acting on the purlins are the weight of roof covering and the fixture self weight of the purlin. So live load from sheeting, snow load and wind load, this all loads are acting on purlin. So, what are the section used as the purling? So, and first we consider as a angle purling. So, angle purling it is used in a small shops when spacing of the roof truss is between 3 to 5 meter. Right here, also criteria is given. If the spacing of roof truss is between 3 to 5 meter, then the angle purlins are used. Angle purlins are basically in L shape. Right. Next one is a channel purling. So it is used when the spacing of roof truss is between 4 to 6 meter. Channel purlin shape is as a C letter, right? And the last one is a beam purlin. If the spacing of roof truss is between 6 to 8 meter, then we use beam purlins. Beam purlins are basically in the I section or I shape, as you can see in this figure. Next is the spacing of purlin. So spacing of purling mainly depends on the largely on the maximum safe span of the roof covering and galvanized sheets. Hence, they should be less than or equal to the safe span when they are directly placed on the purlins. So, for corrugated GI sheet, the purling spacing may be varying from 1.5 to 1.75 meter, right? And for corrugated AC sheets, it is limited to 1.4 meter for 6 thick sheets and 1.6 meter for 7 thick sheets, right? 6 point is a bracing system to resist lateral loads, and the last is the gentry girders, columns, base plates, and the foundation. So, what are the loads on the trusses? The main loads on trusses are dead, imposed, and wind load. Means dead load, live load, and wind load. The dead load is due to sheeting or decking and their fixtures, insulation, false ceiling, weight of purlins, and self weights. These all are considered as a dead load, right? The material which are already fitted in this industrial building, the materials on which it's self weight, right? It's the fixtures like it's connected by bolted connection or welded connection, so also consider their self weight also. So this all are which is already used in this making of this industrial building and considered as a dead load, right? So this load may ranging from zero point 0.3 to 1 kilometer per meter square, which is given in page number 30, table number 1, IS 875 part 1, which is basically for dead loads, designed for dead loads. The weight of purlins are known in advance, so they are designed prior to the trusses. So the weight of truss is small compared to total dead load, live load, and considerable assumption is taken into account for weight of the truss, and it will not have a great impact on the stresses in the various members. So load calculations for design. So the following are the load combinations considered when there is a no crane loads. So first one is a dead load plus live load. Second is dead load plus snow load. Third one is a dead load plus wind load, which is normal to ridge or parallel to ridge, whichever is severe, right? And the last one and the most critical one is dead load plus live load and wind load. So the weight of the bracing may be assumed to be 12 to 15 Newton per meter square of the plan area, right? Which is given in this dead load portion, right? The live load on the roof will be as per page number 15, table number 2, IS 875 part 2. IS 875 part 2, which is considered for live load, right? So here table number 2 is given, right? Type of roofs are given. So based on this uniform distributed imposed load, right? It's a minimum imposed load measured on plan, right? So based on the type of roof truss, imposed load are varying. Wind load should be calculated as per IS 875 part 3. So there are basically three codes which are necessary for this chapter, which is IS 875 part 1 is which is for dead load, IS 875 part 2 which is for live load, and the IS 875 part 3 which is for wind load, right? So you have to download this three. First is also our steel table, right? Birla steel table. I assume that you have that steel table, right? And the second is IS 800, which is our steel code, and the third one is IS 875 1 for dead load, IS 875 2 for live load, and IS 875 part 3 which is for wind load, right? Since the earthquake load depends on the mass of the building, earthquake load do not govern the design of the light industrial buildings. Thus the wind load governs the design of normal trussed roofs, right? So these are this introduction of our theoretical introduction of this industrial building, what are the parts affected or not affected, right? So in the next lecture we consider the different type of design steps, right? Yours is the design steps, and then we calculate the design of an industrial building. So if you have any type of confusion, you can freely contact me anytime, right?